Trial by Franz Kafka. Published in 1915, but like a lot of Kafka's works, probably posthumously, wow, I can't say that word for some reason, and by Max Brod as literary executioner, and is about a young man, 30th birthday, Joseph K. You don't get his last name, you just get Joseph K. written down on every, not quite as kind of minimalist and kind of elusive as like K in the trial, where you got an interesting identity type of thing with, you know, the which speaks a lot, I think, speaks volumes about, you know, the role of the main characters and how that plays, and like the way Kafka plays with those, you know, like your expectations too. You know, and so Josuke, he is visited on his 30th birthday by 2 or 3, I think it's 3, random guys. They just are, they claim to be clients of the court, or like, you know, guards, or, you know, they're basically kind of doing the dirty work of getting, you know, Joseph K. to show up to this trial. And he's saying, like, trial for what? And he's like, well, your trial. Like, you are, as of now, you are being accused of, and like, he's never told what he's accused of, but he's like, this trial is taking part as of now, and again, like, they don't tell him, like, any of the details, and, basically, like, I think at first he suspects that it might be because, his neighbor, I think it's Froline, I think is, like, the kind of German kind of way of saying, like, a Mr. or Mrs. or, you know, Froline, I think, Burstner, I think, don't quote me on that, because he is, like, she's, like, a kind of a lover, or, like, occasional lover of, Joseph, and he is also a clerk at a bank, too, or, yeah, he's, like, one of the chief clerks, and he's, it should be stated that, a lot of Kafka's characters have elements of, like, himself, but not, like, it's almost, like, told through a kind of obstructive type of thing, where it's, like, part of it is, like, his own experience, kind of, with maddeningly, indirect, abstract, you know, incommunicative, like, bureaucracies and red tape, and having to navigate through the miasma of, you know, laws and legalese and all that, and that's definitely what's going on here. But Joseph K is, like, is a little bit different, because I get the sense he's, like, not quite, as close to Kafka as some of his other characters. Like, I think, you know, his struggle, obviously, like, he's you know, that's obviously almost, like, autobiographical with, Kafka's own search for meaning, too. But going back to the narrative, yeah, just Joseph K. is summoned to go to court by these 3 guys, and they're like, you know, don't tell him when to show up, which I found funny. It's like, not where to show up and when to show up, like the 2 key components you'd think people would give. They're like, here's a letter, here, show up. And then he's just like, so he does, or at least he attempts to, but he's like, he goes on these whereabout, like a kind of a roundabout trek, trying to find this place, like, spending a good deal of time trying to track down where the court office is, and then finally he finds it, and then he's reprimanded for showing up late, and they're like, your tardiness is dishonorable, and he's just like, what? Like, you didn't even tell me where to go. So right away it's like, you know, like, again, like, the humor, like, the same thing with, like, the castle or the metamorphosis. It's like, you know, all of Kafka's stories are very sad, obviously. They're melancholic, and, like, you know, there's not, like, happy endings at all, but, like, it's like there's a bit of humor in it too. Like, there's more so than you'd think. Like, there's, like, that, like, the comedy of that, like, being shown up to a court that you're not told where or when, is just, like, I find kind of funny. I mean, yeah, you kind of have to, I think, in a sense, like, so yeah, like, the court is like, yeah, like, basically goes on this plea against him, and they're like, this is what you're, you know, like, you're we're continuing to prosecute you for, and basically it's like, oh, well, I don't care about that. And he gives like this very long, passionate speech about like the how meaningless the trial is. He's like, this is stupid, but like, this is stupid, this is meaningless. Like, you have no grounds to accuse me of anything. Like, I haven't done anything. Like, you haven't told me where to do, what to do. And he's like, trying to use reason, right? And they're just like, nope. Like, he just totally loses them. Like that. Like, he thought he would win them over by like doing that. Like, at least get the jury, right? But the jury, everybody's just totally against him. They're like, yeah, this guy's like lost our favor, and like he's definitely like whatever. Like, he cemented our suspicions that he's totally, yeah, we should continue to prosecute him. So that's what they do. And throughout the novel, it's like a Maya, like going through the sloughs of him trudging, trying to figure out how to go about this. So like, first of all, he starts hiring a lawyer, and then he's like, and then he starts talking to the court painter, who's like an experienced named Titorelli, I think, and then ask him like, well, what's your experience? And he's like, I'm just the court painter. I've been here for a while, but like, I do know that if you talk to this one other lawyer guy named Hold, I think, Hold. He's like, if you talk to Hold, this guy will help you out. And he's like, okay, well, I'll go here. Because like the court painter is like, he's like dispassionate. He's like, I don't have any say in what goes on. I just do my job. I don't do anything. But at least he tries to be of some help to Kay. So Joseph goes trying to find a lawyer, and then at this point, I think his uncle shows up. His uncle is like concerned, obviously, for his nephew, and he's like, oh yeah, I think he recommends a lawyer, actually, I'm sorry. And he's like, yeah, go ahead and see him. Like, he's like, he shows up to Hold's place, and then he's like, is a sickly guy, and he's like in a bed, and he's bedridden, and he's just very kind of like cantankerous, and he has this one nurse, I think named Lenny, who it's presumed that they have like kind of a thing going on, but it's like nothing's quite clear, because there's also other points too in the novel. Like, I forgot to tell you, these points. I'm just saying there's spoilers here too, which is kind of an obvious thing at this point. Come to expect it, but there's other points in the novel when different women would like assistants to different people, or like attendants to higher ups, like women would try to like seduce Joseph K, and he'd be like kind of like just like kind of weirded out. It's just kind of like, you can tell like David Lynch kind of probably, I think he even said so himself, that he's a fan of Kafka, because there's also parallels there with like Lynch. You have like weird, elusive type authority figures out of reach, feeling in a sense of powerlessness in front of them, and then also kind of these ancillary, maybe tertiary woman type characters that have seemingly no other purpose but to kind of seduce, or to kind of use, their looks in order to kind of cajole and try to get, it's like, hey, well, maybe this would change your mind. And it's like, I just kind of think that's like especially eerie / a little bit funny at the same time, just because like, it's like everybody is like kind of in on it, and like everything's kind of, nothing's explicitly stated, but it's like obvious what's going on. That's what I love about it. Like, instead of just saying straight up like, oh, and then this happened, it's like actually just insinuated through between the lines, classically. So it's like, but yeah, it's like Joseph K shows up to Hold, and yeah, Hold is just unhelpful. Like, he's like, there's this other guy named Block, I think, yeah. And Block is kind of like one of the only dang reasonable people in the whole entire novel. And I think like he's not a lawyer, but I think he's a clerk, and he has like a bit of possibly a say in what's going on at the trial, and he's like able to like, well, maybe if, but he's also not really giving any hope, because he's like saying, well, there's actually probably unfortunately no dang chance of you getting out of this, like this mess, like it's because, or getting acquitted, because I actually, when my trial has been going on for 5 years now. He's just like, yeah, it's 5 years, yeah, and he's still hadn't, and he's still like, he's basically gone bankrupt, and he's like in this horrible state in his life where he's like lost everything. He's lost his job because he had to hire a lawyer and do all this stuff, which is very telling about kind of, the whole legal system in general, I guess, like, just, like, generally speaking, not just in, like, Czech Republic with, like, the old kind of kingdom of Czechia and all that, and Polish type thing going on with that. Not necessarily that, or, like, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, really, but, like, stuff like, even today, in today's legal system, if you're accused of something, like, again, it's kind of like the law kind of has, ties together like that. It's a weird that, like, if you're summoned, like, oh, keep in mind the whole term, Joseph K is told that you're actually free. Like, you're free to go to work. You're free to continue on your life as you. It's told, like, it's very, telling of kind of, like, a lot of people who get themselves in legal binds and how meaningless, and how stupid it all is. Like, it's like nobody's ever told what they can do to better the situation, and they're always told, not just in like, legal proceedings, but in general life, or like in jobs too. Like, nobody's ever told. Like, I've experienced this in my own life too, and even though I haven't lived all that long to experience, like, the worst of life yet, I hope. But there's, like, times when certain jobs when people would just, like, not tell me anything of what's going on, like, there's nothing, like, nothing is explicated, nothing is whittled down and made clear, nothing is, it's just, like, everything's left in a haze. Like, everything's just like, well, maybe we might call you next week if we need you, maybe not, I don't know, we'll tell you, go on with your life or something. And it's like, I don't know, like, are you guys gonna fire me, and what's going on here? It's like we might need you. So, like, yeah, you get that, and obviously there's worse examples of that too, just people being totally bankrupt, and like Block was in real life, just trying to, like, fight just, like, really stupid things, or if, like, somebody, for example, if somebody accuses you of something too, or something, or, like, the whole kind of cancel culture movement. I'm not trying to get too political here, but, like, parts of that might play into, because it could be totally something you do in your free time. Like, for example, like, one time you might have said something in the past and it's dug up and it's used against you as fodder, and it's like, anything you say can be used against you, kind of like Miranda rights situation. So yeah, but, like, going back to the novel, Block is then denigrated by Hold, the lawyer, because he's like, you're pathetic, you've spent your life doing this, you don't know what you're talking about. And then this basically kind of cements in Yosef's mind that the lawyer, Hold, is, like, totally, like, not worth, like, he's, like, not worth the hire or the pain, because he's, like, just, like, not only is he demeaning, or I'm sorry, not only is he, like, indirect, and, like, he's, like, going through all these, like, different, like, legalese and manuscripts, and he's like, well, you might be able to win if you do this, and if you do this, and if you spend this much money, and, like, not only that, but he's also just, like, kind of a shitty person. Like, he just, like, demeans Block for, like, no other reason, just, like, he's like, well, that's like, you don't know what you're talking about, like, you didn't win this case, you're pathetic. And he's like, so that kind of breaks his K's trust, or Joseph K's trust with him. So then he decides to at this point he's like, I think there's, like, at his job he's, like, told to, I think, like, escort, like, an Italian dignitary, I think, or something, to the company, to his bank. And I think this is a year later, so, like, this is, like, on his 31st birthday. You started on his 30th birthday, so we've gone a whole full cycle to the end of the novel. And again, spoilers, because I kind of want to give my 2 cents on what happens at the very end, because it is intense. And he's told to escort this person, and he shows up to work as per usual, continuing on with his life. And then one last time, he's like, these 2 men show up at his house, and he's like, at this point, he's like, like, he's been said that, oh yeah, like, you can continue on life as per usual, carry on. And so he has done that, just try to forget about the trial. And then, like, these people show up, and then it's weird, because, like, the way he describes it is, like, the 2 men, like, Joseph K. thought they looked like like one of them had like a shaved face, like an actor, like he gave like a very particular description, and I'm wondering if that was because like during the time, like the early 1900, like the early 20th century was like actors kind of looked like that, or like theater actors might have had like a kind of clean shaven look, and like one of the men, like I think he was saying, like was like kind of uh like almost gave him like what was like kind of like heavy set, pudgy, and like he had like a hammy face. I think he describes him as kind of being like, it's almost like they're both like not infantile, but like they're both innocuous, but like also oddly something's off about them. Like they're like who are these clowns? What are they doing in my house? And they're like, come with us. Like we're from the court. We're come on, just follow us. And he's like, okay, let's get this over with. Like maybe I just have to do one or two more things to finally be acquitted, because he's like has his hopes up. Silly him, he still has his hopes up. And then finally at the end, they take him around to a quarry, and where there's like not a soul to be seen, and then they basically the details are a little bit unclear. Like I don't quite remember them all too well, but yeah, they basically take him to the to this like kind of a secluded area where there's nobody, but and then but aside from like one person, I think like Joseph Casey's kind of like a shadowy silhouette of like one person seeing out the window. I think like and then like in his thoughts, like I love how Kafka gives that kind of Dostoevskian type of inner thought type of process of what's going on, and he's talking like, yeah, like Joseph saw this person, was wondering like, who were they? What could they have possibly helped? Could they have possibly helped him from this final last moment? It's like the denouement. Well, maybe not the denouement, but the conclusion is that Kay is stabbed, and they just take out of nowhere. They just take out a knife, and then the other man holds him, and then I think at one point they carried him along. I could be wrong, but like it's like very long, extensive. He's like, and then they led me to this street and this street and that street, and then finally it's the quarry, and then his last words are like a dog, like when they stab him, and it's just like a very like whoa, it's like something. And then I really, I don't want to say love, but I really kind of always stuck with me and haunted me how Kafka uses the phrase like, and or like he says that like, and he said with a shame that would outlive him or something like that. And I just thought that was really like interesting like way of putting it. Like he's just like the shame of that situation was so horrid, and just that it had no other place to go. Like it couldn't, or like it would it would be the only thing that outlived him was his shame at that moment, and it's just like all of it meant nothing. So yeah, crazy book. It's a little bit one of his longer ones, I think. I think it's like maybe like 200 pages or so, but I'd say it's definitely worth a read. I think it's been criticized for being a little bit like slogging, like there's points where it slogs, and then going through the details of like the trial and the legal proceedings, and like the the judges, and like the roles each played, like going through that. Like it's been criticized for dwelling too much in that, and the kind of the fly in the wall kind of just like explaining just how things were. And I think that was just, there's a point that I think like it was meant to be a little bit crazy, like a little bit disconcerting to read, because it's actually it's so, there's much to be said about like bureaucracy, and there's that. And I think it's best to be said if it's like kind of like, if you have a fly in the wall type of observation that events unfold as they are. So I didn't mind that personally, but other people I think had a bit of an issue with that, and they might be right. Maybe it's been some time since I've read it, so yeah, it might, maybe if I reread it, maybe I'll see what they're talking about. But yeah, it's The Trial by Franz Kafka. Sorry, caveat to that, I totally forgot. There's a point in the novel where, and this is stuff you could just read yourself, but a section called Before the Law, that it's the judge that when he finds the judge actually, like, I think in a church somewhere, like kind of in a semi-public place where he could talk semi-private as well. So I think finds the judge there, and then the judge tells him this old fable type, almost like a child's tale, almost in a sense, that called Before the Law, and it's actually a separate thing that shows up too if you read some of Kafka's short story collections as well. I think it's actually is one of his considered short story as well, but it's about, like, this man that tries to win this case, or he tries to enter this gate, I think, and he's like, and then he goes on for quite some time. He's like, and then the man tries, like, successfully to enter this gate, but he finds that there's no way, to directly in. So he tries to find a way around, but he can't find a way around. And then I think by the end of it, he's like, when he dies, finally, he's like, well, what was the gate like, why can I never enter the gate? And he's asked, like, kind of the presiding people, or like the authority figures there, and they're like, "It was never meant for you." So that's what, like, the last, I think, the last kind of brick, I guess, that fully brings it full circle, to in any other way, but like directly, but saying that you're, yeah, sorry, Joseph K, but you're kind of screwed. Like, you're not gonna find a way out of this. Like, you're not gonna. There's no way around, no way to cheat your way through it. Like, you're just gonna. But yeah, I just thought it was important enough to add, and that was kind of forgetfulness on my part. So